Welcome back to the Pursuit of Property podcast. Today, Cade and I are joined by a good friend and respected colleague, Carlos Rosario, owner of Blueprint Home Inspections.
Hello, good to be here.
We're happy you're here.
Yeah, man.
You don't look happy.
I think we look
Come
ecstatic.
on.
Yeah, you guys are cool. I feel like you guys, every time you see me, you have the same like fake smile. Like, hey, we're happy to see you. And you're like, not really.
Well, we only talk about good things behind your back. I
So
mean,
do I.
unless it was just the two of us. But
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
No.
Good to be here. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. You guys got a good setup here. Yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
dude. Well, let's do a little background. Carlos and I met many years ago, right when I was first starting.
Yeah.
And I have literally not used a different home inspector since. I have yet to have you miss something important or treat a client poorly or anything like that. You have been my go-to home inspector for all
Good.
purchases.
Good. Appreciate that.
I did not realize how important a home inspector was until I saw some of the other people's reports. And I'm not going to say any names, and they aren't all local. We had some pretty bad experiences out of area as well. But we thought with the changing market, with kind of the way everything's stirring up, we thought it'd be really helpful to have you come in and talk about what you do and how it kind of influences a buyer's transaction.
Yeah, so a buyer's transaction, again, a lot of it, for the most part, they're first-time home buyers, right? So our job is to go into the house and run through the house top to bottom, checking all the components. You know, we get on the roof, we get in the attic, we're checking the heating and air conditioning unit, we're checking the electrical system, the plumbing, the appliances, everything inside the house. And we basically compile a list or compile a report that before the buyer moves in, they're fully aware of all the components of the property, good or bad. And so, like, it's a big purchase, right? It's a big deal. So you want to invest a little bit of that money into this home up front, so you can know the ins and outs of the property. So just like when you buy a used car or when you buy a bed or whatever, you test drive it, right? So you go look to the dealership, you take it for a test drive, you know, you're going 80 down the freeway, you stomp on the brakes at the light, you're testing all the buttons, the radio, how cold does the air conditioner go, you're touching all the knobs on the steering wheel. You're basically taking it for a test drive. And so what I'm doing to the home is taking it for a test drive, and I want to make sure that everything is in good working order before you buy it, so this way you're fully aware of what's going on. So that's what we do in a nutshell. So again, it's good information for sure.
What would you say how long have you been in the business?
So real estate, doing say professional inspections. I think this is going to be year 7 or 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And even before I jump into the question, I was thinking of, how did you even get started doing home inspections? Has it been always what you've done?
No,
Or did
so
you
it's not always
come
been
from
what I've
somewhere
done.
else?
I've told 100 people my story before. I was swinging a hammer before this. My brother, who was a local home inspector, I won't give any names, but he got super busy, and he asked me to come on and help him. And so I did for a short period, and he asked me to come on full time and, you know, make a career out of it. And I was like, yeah, sure. But then once you start talking about money, then I was like, yeah, no, it's not going to work. So I continued to swing a hammer. In the meantime, got my own certification, got my own license, and basically went out on my own and started doing it part-time. But as you guys know, when you start a business, people aren't calling your phone all day long. You're not just automatically going to receive business. So just like a real estate agent, you have to go out there and earn people's trust and earn the business that way. And so we started in that sense from the ground up, built our business, and then we got to a point where we had to make a decision where we're going to continue to swing a hammer or we're going to go full turtle and do this home inspection. And so that's how I got into it, basically from my brother, who started doing home inspections way before me.
And he still does home inspections now?
Yep, still to this day.
Do you guys ever coordinate when you're working together?
Absolutely. I mean, he literally lives 3 houses down from me. I don't know why he wants to live so close, but we talk all the time. We get together, we have meetings, you know, we talk with other home inspectors locally and in the California area. We talk about what's going on. We're able to kind of just relay messages, what's going on, what are we seeing, and we're able to just kind of dialect and see what's going on in the market today, what's common, the new practices that are coming out, new components in newer houses that's coming out. So we try to like give each other information so we can be the best at what we're doing.
Yeah, and the question I originally had on my mind, Scott and I, we learned the hard way of the importance of home inspections. We purchased a couple of our rentals out of state, kind of blind eye, without doing a home inspection, and came back to bite us in the ass pretty hard.
Yeah.
You mentioned it's essentially a test drive, right? You're getting in there and testing out all these components for the buyer so that they're aware of what could be wrong, what's not wrong before they get into the home.
Right.
What are some of the most common things you see issues-wise with kind of when you're going in and doing home inspections? What are some common issues that pop up?
So it kind of varies depending on age and location of the home. So again, if your house is on the beach, you're going to have a lot of water intrusion, right? So we live in the valley. It's very dry. The most common areas of concern that I see are usually on the roof. There's plumbing stacks, which are the pipes you see sticking up out of the roof. Those need to be sealed up so you don't allow any water to get down in there. Broken roof tiles, things like that. A lot of people don't go on their roof. So they live in a home for 10, 15 years. They probably never been on the roof. I mean, you have a house. How many times have you been on your roof?
5 times already. You should have known.
But a lot of people don't go on their roof. So there's a lot of roof issues. There is a lot of deferred maintenance issues going on, so such as your heating and cooling system. A lot of people here in the valley, it gets really dusty, and so your heating and cooling units are running hard. And so without proper maintenance, there's a lot of defective items there. A lot of plumbing issues, so depending on, again, age and location of the home, a lot of times some homes will be built on a sub-foundation where it's built off of the ground. There's a lot of components underneath that home, so such as plumbing, electrical, foundation. There's a lot of stuff going on underneath, and so we find a lot of issues under there because nobody goes underneath their house. Nobody really wants to go underneath the house, and so with that deferred maintenance going on, nobody goes underneath the house, and if we go underneath the house, they've lived in the house for 10, 12 years, there's going to be a lot of deferred maintenance, if you will, and those deferred items essentially become big items and costly items if you don't find them.
Yeah.
So we want to prevent that and let our buyers know and be aware of it before they purchase the house, before they move in.
I've kind of made an analogy in the past. I liked what you said about the test driving a car. Mm-hmm. I kind of tell my clients that like a home inspector is kind of like a doctor for your house. He's going to go through and look in not just the easy seeable areas. You're looking for like any signs that there's wear and tear that shouldn't be there.
Right.
And I ask a lot of people like what you just asked, like, have you crawled in your attic before? Like, did you take a flashlight and look for any water damage? Did you go in your basement or your crawl space and go under your showers and see if you have a cracked shower pan? When you're going through, you have a system. Like, obviously, I've been to a lot of your home inspections. When you're going, it seems like everything kind of goes in a specific order. Do you want to kind of walk through maybe an order of how you would look at a house if you were not a home inspector, but say your home inspector already did it and now you're just going back through it?
Yeah, so we do have a process. We do have a systematic what we go through every time. We try not to deviate from that. So when people are talking to us, people show up, buyers show up, sellers are there. We try not to deviate from our process because when you're doing this everyday repetition, there's a process. So we usually start at the top of the house and work our way down. So I will usually walk the perimeter, see if there's any evidence of anything. Now, usually when we see something on the outside or we see something initially, we don't initially know what the problem is or what caused it. And so we put that in our notes. And so as we're doing the inspection from top to bottom, all these puzzle pieces start to come together, right? So if we see something that's defective on the roof, okay, now we know to look at something on the ceiling inside or something in the attic. So we're looking for a lot of, water intrusion, those types of things. So we start on the roof, work our way down the attic, the air conditioner, the electrical, because a lot of it is connected to the electrical, right? So we want to know what type of electrical we're dealing with. So this, when we go to that component, we remember the electrical panel, and it should be corresponding with whatever circuit breaker, wiring, whatever. So there is a process, yes. So from top to bottom, and at the end, which is the fun part, we go underneath the house, right? So we kind of do it the way water travels. So water starts at the top, it works its way down the walls, underneath the floor, and then down to the ground. And so kind of the same thing. So we usually end up underneath the house. Usually we find the most issues underneath the house. But that's our process. That's our system. And so that's how we do it.
Now, that's your process when you're actually there at the home inspection, right? The next important piece for a home buyer, first-time home buyer, right, is now taking all of that information that you put into basically a report, right? Can you talk a little bit more about how that report itself is outlined and how you are calling out things or how you are ranking things and how a buyer takes that information to then look at and then put together their request for repairs?
Right. So during the real estate transaction, I'll do the inspection. We do the walkthrough with the buyer, and I send the report out. Now, for the most part, a lot of the items in a home are usually deferred maintenance, right? They're easy to fix. And I say easy, not as costly, I guess you can say. They're usually common items that we see in every home. Something that you can fix when you're there, or you can hire your husband or boyfriend or your aunt, your uncle to come and fix too as well. But for the most part, we want to make note of the big ticket items, right? The costly items, the items that if you don't pay attention to or don't fix now or soon, will eventually cause you more, headaches down the road. So we do prioritize them. We do label them. Some things are, satisfactory. Some things are fair, and some things are poor where they're needing immediate attention. So again, we prioritize that. We let the buyer know during the walkthrough what's important, what's not so important, some things that you can do after you move in, and some things to pay attention to when you're getting ready to ask for your repair request list. We don't want to put, well, at least I wouldn't put everything in this repair request list, because the seller is going to tell you to go away. We'll get somebody else to buy the house. So you want to pay attention to the big ticket items, the costly items, air conditioning, plumbing leaks, things that need immediate attention. Again, every house is going to have its own set of issues, but we want to focus on the big ticket items.
Yeah. I mean, and outside of just a home inspection, a lot of people get a pest inspection or a roof inspection. They're supplementary.
Yep.
The home inspection is kind of the base. It's like home base. And then you often will say, hey, if there's a specific problem, reach out to this professional to
absolutely, yeah. So
to
like
look
the
at
analogy
that.
You brought up, being a doctor. So the doctor is like the general doctor, right? And so if he sees something with you, whether it be your lungs or, whatever it may be, then he's going to refer you to a specialist, right? So if you got plumbing issues going on, I'm going to be like, hey, definitely get a plumbing lateral scope or something like that. If I see something going on, with the pool equipment, I'd be like, hey, think about getting a pool specialist to come and check out, the pool light that's not working or whatever. So again, I'm not a doctor by any means, but the analogy is correct. I'm the doctor, and then I refer you out to specialists who specifically deal with those types of items to either correct or take a second look at it.
Yeah. And the cool part here, too, is that you don't always just help the buyer, too. You often help the seller, because when you're looking at it, you add remedial action, or you'll give suggestions on how something should be properly fixed.
Yep.
In the past, I've worked with a lot of sellers, and I've seen your report come across my desk more than once. I'm always happy about it, because frankly, I would rather everything be disclosed correctly and us know about it than have a bad inspector miss it and then later have issues, right?
Come up, yeah.
So you and I have always talked about that, and we even have gotten a lot of inspections for sellers before listing.
Right.
And then you walk through with the seller and you say, hey, these are things that I really caught that, this is kind of an important thing to fix. And then you've brought up hey, an example that I can think of, there was a water stain, and you went and you spent 20 minutes up in the attic, and you took the thermometer or
The thermal camera.
Yeah, the thermal camera, and you were checking to see, hey, is there any active issues going on, so that we could disclose. We had a professional come through. At the time of the inspection, there was no active issues. We went on the roof. We got a roof certification,
Yep.
because you had recommended that we get that. And that sale went through as is. There was no request
Good.
ever. And
Good.
that was helpful because a seller knew kind of what to expect.
Yeah, that's actually, a lot of people kind of forget that. So we do pre-listing inspections for sellers. People getting ready to put their house on the market. They lived in the house for, more than a few years, and they may think that their house is perfect. So we go in, we do a pre-listing. We run through the house top to bottom. We call out everything. And we let them know, so this way they can pick and choose what's important, what needs to be attended to, what we want to fix before the sale of the home. Because 9 times out of 10, the buyer's going to get their own inspection anyway. So we want to let the seller know ahead of time, hey, these are some items that you should probably take care of, or these are just some items that maybe you can just disclose or just be aware of. So usually the big ticket items. So if that, in that particular home, if the roof was an active leak, then they could have fixed it, disclose that they fixed it, and then the buyer later on wouldn't be asking for $3,500 in roof repairs, and we want you to replace the drywall and change all the insulation in the attic and blah, 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 and it's costing you $6,000.
Right.
So, again, we bring it to their attention. We figure out what it is. You attend to it as you need to, and usually you disclose that with the buyer, and it's a good negotiating tool, too, as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like a protection policy. And like for a lot of the sellers who are a little bit slower to get on the market, who know that they're going to be listing in the next few weeks, next few months, I always recommend it. And I say, like, what's the worst that happens? We find out about info early.
Yeah.
Or we don't do it. And then the way that a real estate transaction works is that your negotiations start really about 2 weeks into escrow. So you only have 2 weeks to fix it.
Yeah.
So your options are either try to pay for it and fix it, which is going to be more expensive because you're on a time crunch.
Right.
Give the buyer the money to do it. Try to say no and risk losing the deal.
Right.
Or find out about it a month and a half earlier, have the time to actually go get a couple quotes and get a person that you like and not have to pay a rush.
Right.
So to me, I found that the pre-listing inspection has always saved money.
Yeah,
Almost every single inspection we've had, we've made a repair that would have cost more if we hadn't found it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it saves a headache too, really.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, when those negotiations come into play, you're winning because you're not giving up very much, right? Because it's already been fixed, and you're not having to come out of pocket on anything. You're not, if it costs $500 to fix and they want $1,500 to fix it, like, you're winning because you didn't have to pay that premium. So definitely a good negotiation tool for sure.
Yeah, and it can be a little overwhelming from when we're on the topic of kind of these pre-listing inspections, right? When a seller gets those reports and they're looking at it, a thought that can pop in their head is, holy crap, this thing is so meticulous. Like, he called out this and this, that's not even a big deal, right? But emphasizing that how meticulous you are in your inspections, and then subsequently on the report, yeah, I mean, you're not calling something out to be an asshole, right? You're calling something out to make, just so everybody's aware. And just like if you were from the buyer's perspective, being able to see, okay, this is something that is not really high ticket, it's an easy or less costly fix, right? But nonetheless, they're still aware of it.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, every transaction is different. You guys know this. Every buyer, every seller is different. Every home is different. And so what people think is important varies, right? So Scott may think the roof repairs are super important. The plumbing repairs, not so much, because my brother, he's a plumber, right? Single parent dad moves in, doesn't own a toolbox. He may think that the sink stopper is a deal breaker, right? So everybody is different. Everybody, what they think is important is different. So that's why we disclose all the information. You pick and choose at that point what is important, what's not important to you, and then you decipher then how you want to move forward with those items. And usually when you have a good real estate agent backing you, they can kind of guide you and telling you what's important, what's not so important. If a house is missing a window screen, and they want the window screens all repaired. Oh, it's the end of the world. All the mosquitoes are coming in. Like, okay, well, it's $34 for a new window screen. Let's move on, right? So, again, everybody is different. What's important? For the most part, nothing is super important. Nothing that I can't fix. But again, not everybody's like me, and so if they know somebody that they can fix it later on, then it doesn't become an issue. But again, everybody's different, and what's important to them.
Yeah.
And can you talk about, too, you bring a camera to all of your inspections, right? And you take a crap ton of photos that are also in the report and also for you to keep for your record. Can you emphasize why you do that?
Yeah, so pictures are important. Back when I first started, I take it back. Back when I bought my first house, way back when, I remember getting a home inspection, and it was like 3 or 4 pages long. No pictures, no nothing. It was handwritten, which was fine. Nowadays, technology is big, right? So we want to be big on technology. Now, pictures is not a new technology, but we do take pictures during our inspection. We put not all the pictures, but some important pictures in the report. We put video, if necessary, in the report. The pictures are for me. The pictures are for all parties involved. I don't want to give a bunch of negative, but there are times where the seller's selling the house, everything is good, the buyer moves in, and the water heater is not working. The buyer will call me and say, hey, my water heater's not working. What the heck? I go down there, and this is not the water heater that was here when I was here. Well, how do you know? Well, because I have a picture, right? So that would be extreme.
Right.
But that's happened. That's happened where people replace out the air conditioner or a window wall unit that was there that's no longer there. So there's pictures are to provide some type of evidence that can kind of help all the parties along the way. And it helps me too. Like, if I see something in a picture, it helps me kind of like a buyer will call me and be like, hey, do you remember where the plumbing clean out is? And I'm like, man, shoot, I don't know. Let me look at my pictures. Oh yeah, it's in the front yard next to the front window.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that helps me in that sense too as well. But the pictures are for everybody, so there is no confusion later on.
Yeah. And not to go too far down the horror story route, but I've been at an inspection. You and I were just talking about it when we were at like 2 houses on one lot. Both houses were very, very old. We knew that their condition wasn't great going into it.
Yeah,
but by the time we went, what?
The what? Yeah, you didn't tell me that part.
Well, by the time we got underneath the house, we were looking at the foundation had problems. The flooring was all up on rocks and sticks, and there was active leaks all over. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those where you and I were like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, a buyer can buy any condition house, but like, he needs to understand, like, this is not a cosmetic fix-up. This is a serious structural issue.
Yeah, a lot of issues going on. You want to just bring it to their attention. Now, again, is it important to them? I don't know. If my house was sinking on one side or had large foundation cracks and it was separating, like, I'd probably want to know. But again, everybody is different. A lot of it, deferred maintenance. So when people haven't, been underneath their house, that's when it becomes a big issue. When you don't catch it in time. Yeah.
Now, obviously, each property is different, right? But can you give a ballpark of how long a traditional home inspection lasts? Are buyers there for the whole time of the home inspection?
Yeah.
What is kind of your ballpark for how long it takes and general recommendations for buyers being there, not being there?
So in our initial email, we send out, how long we're going to be there, how long the appointment lasts. Now, it does depend on age, square footage, if it's got a second home on it. If it's older, takes a little bit longer. Our general inspection, 1,700 square foot house, built in the 80s, usually takes about 2 hours. We usually recommend the buyer show up about 30 minutes prior to me being done. So this way they're not standing around for 2 hours and just kind of twiddling their thumbs. They show up, they measure, they get excited, they look around, they look at some stuff they didn't see before. And then once I'm done, we do an official walkthrough around the house. We kind of talk about all the items that I found and bring it to their attention. Now, bigger houses take longer, maybe 3 hours. a house or a property that may have 2 homes on it, maybe take 4 hours, something like that.
6 hours.
Was it 6 hours?
It was 6 hours.
6 hours.
1 to 7 p.m.
Was it that long?
I have it in my calendar.
Is it record? Oh, he's breaking out.
While you continue talking, I'll pull that up.
Some of them take longer, right? And I don't know of anybody that said, "Hey, just give me any home inspector you got," because not all home inspectors are the same. And you guys already talked about that already. So we try to take I don't say we take our time, but we're thorough. We go through every component. We don't skip any corners. So that one took 7 hours because it had a lot going on, right? And so we don't just, if it's scheduled for 4 hours and we took 6, we don't stop at 4.
Yeah.
If we're not done within 4 hours, then we continue to do our systematic inspection because that's what it takes. So we don't cut any corners to save time. It is what it is. We want to make sure we give our clients full information, of everything that's going on. So this way they're not missing anything when they're moving in.
I have kind of a selfish question, and this is because I just moved, and a lot of people kind of know that on the podcast. You did my home inspection, and you and I, it wasn't a very hard house. The guy prior to me did a really good job. He maintained a lot of the major components.
Yeah.
Seemed to be a pretty meticulous dude. Little things come up here and there. That's just kind of the way of the world. If you were to say somebody came up to you and just said, "Hey, what kind of maintenance should I be doing on my house annually?" Or how frequently would you recommend stuff? Do you have a general checklist that you do? I know you're a big proponent, especially of HVAC, having your HVAC checked up a couple times, at least while you're in a home, but hopefully once a year or semi-annually, just blowing the dust off essentially and taking a check.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in a house. As you live in a house, you don't kind of think of anything until it's actually defective. Right. So if you have a plumbing backup, you don't actually know it until it's actually backing up out of your shower or your toilet. So again, proper maintenance, yearly maintenance is always recommended. So when we're doing our walkthrough, we try to explain to the buyers or the investor or whoever's buying the property, hey, maybe get your air conditioner looked at maybe once a year. If it's older, maybe twice a year, during a biannual inspection where they'll come out and check the heater right before wintertime and they'll check the air conditioner right before summertime. Water heaters, they should be flushed out so you get rid of all that sediment in there. Nobody ever does that, right, until their water heater is not working correctly.
How frequently would you recommend that?
So on our water heaters, if it depends on the age. It depends on the style, like if it's a tankless versus a tank. Older water heaters, they should be flushed out at least every other year.
Is that something that a homeowner can do, or do you need a professional?
Homeowner can do it.
What about a guy like me?
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably just.
I've seen your toolbox.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen. I'd get somebody else. But somebody who has a proper toolbox can do it. It doesn't take long. Water hose and some other stuff.
Okay.
But a professional to come out and do it, I think it's like $75 or $85, something like that.
And it could save you the cost of a whole new water heater.
Yeah, because it's actually gonna prolong the life of it. So it's not gonna save you the cost of a new one.
Well, right.
But it's definitely gonna prolong the life of the current unit. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Changing your air filters in your heating and cooling system, so this way it's running efficient. Changing your filters in your kitchen hood. Changing your filters on your, if it has your water softeners on your water supply lines, those types of things. It just kind of helps everything.
Do you recommend for sellers to get up on their roof, go in their attic, go in their subcrawl space, on any kind of a frequent basis, like a yearly basis or anything? Or do you think that's really left to...
Well, I don't really recommend anybody walking on their own roof.
For insurance purposes, we did not recommend it.
Scott, when I did his, he was walking on the roof. Backwards.
Running.
But I don't recommend it, but yeah, it's something that needs to be done. So whether or not you get a professional or not, there's ring gutters up there that need to be cleaned. Plumbing stacks need to be sealed up. There may or may not be ductwork for your air conditioner up there that needs to be sealed up. Trees that need to be trimmed away from your home, so you're not allowing critters to get on your roof and some other stuff. So the not so safe areas, probably not. Attic may be one area they can get in for sure. There's ductwork in the attic. There could be, critters living in your attic that you may need to get rid of. The sub area, again, if you're not claustrophobic, you could probably get underneath your house and do your own repairs. But for the unsafe areas, such as the roof, I'd probably recommend somebody a little bit more professional.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so another big thing for first-time home buyers, or even home buyers in general, right, going through the process of buying a home, it can feel like at times they're spending money left and right, on miscellaneous stuff, inspections, whatever it is,
Right.
in escrow. Now, obviously, the cost of a home inspection can vary from obviously size of the house. If something's a lot bigger and it's going to take more time, it's going to cost more than
Right.
your traditional 1,700 3-bed 2-bath,
Right.
What I usually tell clients, and obviously depending on the house, again, you can reasonably expect a home inspection to be at least a few $100s. Would that be fair?
Yes, it is fair. Not all home inspections are the same. The cost is
Yes.
not the same. Not every home inspector is the same. Everybody charges a different fee. So same thing with any service here in Fresno. You pay for what you get for. You pay what you get. What is the saying? You pay what you get for.
You
pay
get what you
you
pay
get
for.
Whatever.
You get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. So I think it's the same thing in a home inspection. If you want the guy who's going to be there for 30 minutes, probably not go in the attic and probably not crawl it and maybe just get the ladder up on the edge of the roof, that's cool too. You can get him. If you want the guy that, is going to make sure he hits every corner of the house, brings all his fancy tools and gives you a proper report, not a handwritten report on one page that has scribbles on it, go with that guy. So again, the price varies on that. And again, you guys all know, if you want good service, if you want the best products, if you want something that's going to be legit, you're going to pay a little more for it, right? So you want the car that has the leather and the Bluetooth and the seats that massage your back while you're driving, costs more, right? So you're going to pay the same thing as far as an inspection. So a standard inspection, I know there's guys still out there doing it for $199. That's fine. There's guys out there that are $600-$700. I don't think we're there yet. And there's all kinds of other guys in between. So you can imagine what we're charging for a home inspection, again, based on square footage, age, those types of things. If it takes longer, if it has a pool, if it has a detached barn you want done, all those things are obviously supplemental fees.
I want to kind of transition then, because this is an important part. If we're talking about the cost of the home inspection, just like for the seller, the home inspection is usually covered when you do a pre-inspection by the cost of the savings that you make when you make specific repairs.
Yeah.
If you're a buyer, it is in your best interest to do the most thorough inspection that you can afford. And in a changing market like what we've been talking about, the last 6 or 7 podcasts, currently requests for repairs are back on the table. And I think for 2 or 3 years, all you were doing was providing this information and saying, this is just so that you know what you're about to walk into and decide whether or not you're going to keep moving forward or not. Very few repairs were being requested.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. How many months ago where we were doing inspections and you couldn't ask for any repairs because there were 36 other people lined up to buy this same house. So a lot of the inspections that we were doing, a lot of findings, buyers were having to take care of those themselves, which in my opinion wasn't the best outcome, right? So nowadays the market is starting to shift. We're starting to see, and you guys know this already, you're starting to see more houses on the market. Houses are sitting longer. Negotiations are starting to come back to the table. Before, sellers were getting everything they wanted and more for the house, and don't ask me for any repairs, and they would get it. Nowadays, it is shifting a little bit where buyers are paying a little bit less. They may or may not be asking for closing costs. They may or may not be asking for repairs.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, I think that's not getting back to a buyer's market, but more of a healthy market where both sides are coming together, both sides are giving and taking, and they're coming to an agreement where both sides are happy. And I think that's where it should be, not just one-sided.
Well, and you've been in the market for so much longer than Cade or I have. I mean, double what I've been in the market. You've seen this for a lot longer period of time, but even when I started, I mean, I would guess that the average repairs request back when I was really starting in 2018 was probably a couple $1,000, you know. It was 18 to $2,500. So say you spend $500 on a home inspection, right? So maybe you have a nice house, you're like, "Hey, just want to be safe." Well, if you find one thing that saves you that money, you come out net positive here.
Oh,
because
no doubt.
just like you said, in the last few months and the last year and a half, buyers had to just foot the bill. And in that situation, like, you would call out, "Hey, just as a heads up, your AC's on its last leg because it hasn't been serviced in 18 years.
Yeah.
You know, this unit's not supposed to last this long without servicing."
Right.
Well, buyer kind of had to say, "Okay, you know, that's just part of owning this
still want
house."
it. Yeah. It's I can go on stories and stories. I'll just give you the two brief ones. One was a home in the Tower District area off of Echo Street. It was a flip, and we can get in all day long about flips, and I won't even go there. But they were doing this flip, and I'm not taking a jab at you guys. But they did a flip. Part of the negotiations was they were to get a new heating and air conditioning system, and I was like, man, that's unheard of. Like,
that's a huge
who
win.
buys a house and out the gate they're getting a new heating and cooling unit? Like, I was like, man, you got a really good real estate agent. So we went back to do the inspection on this new HVAC unit that they put in, and it was completely installed wrong. I mean, there were so many things that were wrong about it. And the buyer called and said, "Hey, how does it look?" And I said, "Look, it's new, but there's a lot of stuff going on with it." And so I had a conversation with the agent, and she was like, "Bottom line, just tell me what's happening." I said, "Look, it's working. It's cooling. It's heating. It's doing everything you ask it to do." I said, "But it's undersized. The installation is wrong. And if your buyer is okay paying a $800 or $900 PG&E bill forever, then on a 900 square foot house, then yeah, that be okay. Because what's going to happen is your air conditioner is going to run all day long and never shut off because it's undersized. It's never going to get to temperature." So again, those are things that we find that we try to make sure our buyers are aware of. So not just because it's a new unit, but what are the repercussions later on after you move in? What's going to happen or what could happen? So we want to make sure they're aware of that too as well. Even though they really like the house, just want to make sure you're okay paying an excessive amount of PG&E, right? So there's so many instances I can tell you where things like that have happened or that may happen, and we want to bring it to the buyer's attention for sure.
Now, is there anything, obviously we talked about you can call stuff out and recommend for that other specialist inspector to come in. You gave the example of a roof inspector or a specialized pool guy to come out,
right,
where you notice something's not quite right, but you are not comfortable, given a whole in-depth, because you're not a pool specialist, right? You're the home inspector. Is there anything that home inspectors can't really call out or can't really give an opinion on? Because I know a few buyers, actually more than a few buyers that I've worked with, they're like, "Okay, great, home inspection's going to be done, this, that, and the other." Is there anything they can't see or can't give an opinion on where we need to go out and find somebody else?
Well, it depends. So again, not every home inspector is the same.
Yes.
Just like any profession. If you've been doing it for a long time, you know the ins and outs of stuff. Again, I've been in construction for a while, so I know the ins and outs of things. Now, what we can't call there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can't call that our license can't allow us. to call, and I'll say it, like it mold, right? We can't call out something that's mold because officially we don't know if it's mold, and the only real way to know if it's mold is if we take samples, send it off to the lab, and we get lab results saying that it's all the materials in there are pointing to mold. There's a lot of things that we can't call out as far as code because the codes are always changing. Again, if I call out code on a 1970s house, that code may not be different to today's standards. So what we do call out is current standards. And so that's why we're constantly learning. That's why we're constantly reading. We're always talking to contractors. What's the new standard? What's the new installs? We're doing brand new constructions all the time so we can see the new stuff that they're putting in, how it's installed. And so we're always talking to people, always in contact with other home inspectors, contractors in town. What's the latest and the greatest? So a lot of the stuff that we can or can't call may not pertain to that house because it was a different code back then, right? So we usually don't call out code because if we call out code, then it gets us in trouble because the code may have changed from year to year, from certain areas of Fresno or Clovis or whatever. Some things are okay in Clovis and not okay in Fresno. Again, there's so many things out there, so we try to leave it to the professionals, the guys who are licensed in that specific area, to call it out.
And you mentioned new constructions, and that's an interesting topic because buyers who are buying a new construction home may think to themselves, everything in this house is brand new. Why would I need to drop money on a home inspection?
Yeah.
Can you explain why? Do you recommend a home inspection for new construction, first off, and why? I'm
smiling because I've done more new construction in the past year than I've ever done all my years previous combined. And I think the reason is nothing against the local home builders. I know some of them, they do a good job. Some of them, not so much. And I won't say any names, but some of them, not so much. A lot of it has to do with us waiting on materials. I know with the chain of materials that were kind of blocked. Supply chain was blocked, so we weren't getting appliances, we weren't getting ductwork, we weren't getting materials to build these houses, so we got put behind. I get that, but what they're doing is they're trying to rush these houses to close. I just got a phone call yesterday. She's buying a brand new build. She's getting keys today, matter of fact. I mean, she still wants to get the inspection done because she says, when I did the walkthrough yesterday, there was so many things that were undone. She said there were electrical wiring hanging from the ceiling. There were windows that weren't installed. There were so many things not done. And so she feels like maybe they dropped the ball somewhere else too as well. And so she wants us to go out and check this house. So that's a prime example. Other examples where we went in and brand new construction, air conditioner leaking in the attic. Broken roof tiles because they were measuring for solar and they didn't repair the broken roof tiles. I mean, there's so many different things. The grading issues. There's so many things that we see during a new construction that you think is good and it should be perfect, and it's not always.
But my thing would be the home builders who are building all of these brand new homes, right? They're not going to have the buyer's best interests at heart. They're going to have their best interests at heart, right? So that they may not, if you know what I mean. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I absolutely know what you mean. I get it. They're trying to close a deal. They're trying to close for that quarter. They're trying to close so many houses for that quarter. I get it. And for the most part, for the ones who don't have a real estate, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can have a real estate agent represent you as you're getting a new home. I don't know if anybody knew that.
I've done a couple.
Okay. So it's something that you can do. But again, for the most part, the builder, in my opinion, I feel like they have the buyer's interest at up at the front. But when it gets crunch time, that's when things may shift. I feel like it's fine. We'll get that all done after you sign the dotted line and you get keys. We'll fix it. Don't worry. But what happens is they put you at the bottom of the pile. Hey, live in the house for 90 days. Come up with the list, and then we'll come back later on and fix it. When you buy something brand new, it should be brand new. You should not have anybody coming in fixing anything. Everything should be new and working like new. When you buy a new car, you don't tell them, oh yeah, here, test drive it for 90 days. If you have any issues, bring it back. No, you shouldn't have any issues because everything has been already checked. You shouldn't have to bring your car in for a tune-up 90 days later. And so same thing is happening with some of these new houses. They're forgetting things. They're rushing things, and some things get overlooked.
Yeah. Well, if this didn't break down the reasons why somebody should be doing their inspections during a purchase, I don't know what will. I live by what I'm preaching. I came to you. I got a home inspection, a pest inspection on an as-is sale for my purchase, and I just happened to also have a really cool seller who did make some repairs that he saw from the report. And I think that if you're buying right now, you're taking some issues and some benefits with the market. You have to pay a little bit more right now with your interest rate, but leverage the fact that right now there's less buyers buying, and go to a seller and get an inspection and say, here are the problems with the house that I'd like fixed.
Yeah.
You can save money that way, and interest rates come down. You can't go back to the seller in 3 years and say, hey, interest rates are down. Can you come fix some stuff?
Yeah, no doubt. I know you talked about that too as well, getting some of those things done. The market right now is such where you can ask for some of those things to get done, which is good. You don't want to have to buy a house and be bullied into just buying it the way it is. So with a good real estate agent behind you, hopefully you can negotiate some of those items.
And a good home inspector behind you.
Good home inspector is always a good idea too as well. So, yeah.
Well, Carlos, we are grateful that you came in, shed a lot of light on a lot of different aspects of real estate purchases. And if there's a way for our listeners to reach you, what would that be?
So we're based out of Clovis, California, which is here, the next city over. We're in Fresno now. But you can reach us on our website at blueprinthomeinspections.net. You can request appointments there too as well. You can see our price sheet. You can see all the services that we provide, whether it be new construction, new phase build instructions, so pre-drywall. We can do well inspections, septic inspections. We can actually do mold inspections too as well. You can just see all the services we offer there. You can call us. So our phone number is 559-285-0860. You can email us at blueprintinspections@gmail.com, or just Google search us. We're all over the web. Be happy to help.
Boom. Carlos, thanks again for coming on to the Pursuit of Property podcast. We appreciate you. Yep. And all of you guys out there listening, if you guys have any questions, obviously one of the biggest takeaways here, whenever you're buying a home, always get a frickin' home inspection. Okay. So, Carlos, we appreciate you. We will see all of you guys next week back here on the Pursuit of Property podcast. Thanks, guys.